2024-25. I'm Ted Sharm, the alderman filling in for Mary Sullivan. She is off tonight. Mary, wherever you are, I wish you were here. With that said, tonight we have Alderman Belzak, Gustafson, Legamsky, Stoppanato, and myself, and Joe Kenny's not here as well. We're going to start with the police department budget. We'll go right into that. So it's on page 64 of the computer. Chief, anything you want to start with?
No, I had this year took the opportunity to write a little memo that explains some of the larger decreases and increases in the budget and some justifications, but no other than that, no leading conversation.
Okay.
Chief, you went to your committee already too, so at least 3 of the elected officials.
We went to police committee, whatever the date it was, third Monday of the month.
Okay. Michael, Mayor, anything?
Well, no, I have a question. Once we get on to page 55 and the summary page, I've got a couple comments.
Okay, please, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Chief, I guess it relates the last couple lines under operating costs. We have utilities, gas and electric, and vehicle gas and oil. And it
Where are you at now? I'm sorry.
55, right?
Page 55.
Yeah. Okay.
Operating costs about 2/3 of the way down. The last two items, utilities, gas, out to years 2 and 3. For the current year, we're looking at a budget of $14,000 and $90,000, and yet going out, we're looking at a budget of $10,000 and $80,000. They're actually decreasing those last 2 years.
That's Trump.
Oh,
No, that's an error.
well, that works for me.
No, Brian brought that to my attention too, so that's a miss on
Only
me.
because I brought it to his attention.
That's probably true.
Okay, that's all I have on that page.
Okay.
Oh,
I
wait,
like my
I'm
answer
sorry.
better.
I'm sorry. No, I do have one more. The next section, contractual DUMEG, Child Center. Again, current budget 27.7, and we're going down to 25. Are we dropping out of something, or again, years 2 and 3 in that?
Merit is an old number, so that should still be 65 in those next 2 years. Children's Center has been 3,500 forever, and DUMEG is going up slightly in 2026.
Okay. Next page, we're going to start with salaries, 40-4010. Does anybody have any questions on any of the salaries?
I did on salaries officers.
Okay, let's go on to it. Go.
The merit bonus, Chief, it's dropping to 5,900. Last year was 10,461. Is that based on contract or?
$40-4020.
Yeah, I'm
It's in
looking.
2 places,
It's
Chief.
in. You're on salaries, right, for sworn?
Salaries
Yeah,
officers.
officers, yep.
Yeah, officers don't get it, just Jason and I, so that is the correct number. I'm not sure why it would have went down.
Under union salaries for 33 members, we have a discretionary item for 158,605.
Correct, and that's in that memo that I forwarded. It's kind of an odd request, but I think a necessary one. And the reason I say it's odd is that typically if I came to this body or a prior body asking for additional personnel, it's almost always related to crime, calls for service, crashes, concerns, stuff that we need additional personnel. Problem that we've been running into is with, like every other agency, we're probably doing a lot better than most, is with recruitment, retention, and hiring, and it takes so long. So for the police committee, I put together a chart, and I walked through that, and I'll walk through that with you as well. So we were running, our prior list was coming to expiration. So we had to get a new list established, and that new list was established at the end of July. So as soon as it was established, we wanted to hire to replace an officer that left in October 4th of 2022. So we made the offer on the 1st, and she turned us down on the 2nd, made another offer to a different candidate on the 1st, and turned us down on the 14th, made another offer on the 8th, and turned us down on the 14th, made another offer on the 15th, and the 16th, that person accepted. So then we go through all the processes of,
Right, Chief, the same person keeps,
no, that's 3 different people. So we went through the first candidate, second candidate, third candidate. All of them went to another jurisdiction, because,
Oh, okay.
and it's all timing. So they were all on different lists, and they all got called before we established our list. And
so how
made the
much,
call.
like in those candidates, how much would we already have kind of sunk into the process? Is that?
No, that's a cost of testing, and the candidate actually pays the cost of testing. I think it's $35 or $35 or $40, and then there's some cost on us. We do the upfront cost, and then we get reimbursed. I think our total cost for running the list that we have, I think we had 80 candidates. We wound up with 30, 29, 30, and that cost probably about $2,000. So that cost, but your point is going to be well taken in a couple minutes here about the cost. So then, once the testing's done, then the costs start kicking in, because now you got polygraph, psych, background investigation. Polygraph is $150, the psych is about $475, and the background runs between probably a little bit over $1,000. So that is a cost that we did not have to do with those 3, but we did have to do it on the 4th candidate. And it takes time. So by time we made the offer on 8/16, in order to do the conditional offer and get through all that process, was 10/5 of 23. And then once you make the conditional offer, then there's the medical testing, drug testing, and the I'm missing one, stress test. And then, so the hire date, we try to coincide with the next date of the police academy. So we hired on January 2nd. So we started the process on August 15th and did not hire until January 2nd. Then he's currently at SLEA. That graduation is April 26th. He'll start in-house to go to the FTO program. All that training is going to take him till about August 24th, if there's no extensions and everything's beautiful. So it was 140 days from initial hire or initial offer to hire, and it's then it was 115 days to hire to graduation, and then it's another 120 days from graduation to solo patrol. So all total, that's 389 days to get somebody
Over a year.
an offer and hired.
Gotcha.
And if you look at the real number, that officer that we were replacing, that's a 690-day wait. So we've worked almost 2 full years without an officer.
Gotcha.
I believe the solution is to go to additional officers so that we're ahead of the game. And then when an officer retires, then we go back to that 34 number. But we got to do something to stay ahead of that hiring game, because we're playing this catch up. And then it gets worse when while this officer was gone and we're trying to hire, we had an officer go out on maternity leave, 2 go out on paternity leave, and 1 that got hurt. So now you're down 4 more officers, even whether they're working light duty or off. That just creates a big problem. So that's the reason why the request is in there for the 2 additional officers.
Makes sense. How long does an officer go on paternity leave for, just out of curiosity?
Maternity is usually 12 weeks. Paternity is also 12 weeks, but most of the time they take that in intermittent FMLA.
Okay.
And so they might be gone maybe 2 weeks at the beginning, and then maybe a week every month after that, or something like that.
Okay, gotcha.
You know, I was over in Woodridge visiting. We had a District 3 representative meeting over there, so we got a tour of the new police station. And I was talking to their deputy chief, who is the interim chief now, because Cunningham retired, and he told me they're staffed for 52, but they're in the 40s. They don't have a full contingent. They don't have an SRO. They don't have officers in certain positions. So when we met with Greg, what really spurred the conversation is the schools were looking for an SRO. And Greg was going to, I guess Jason and Greg were going to staff for that, but have to hire a new officer. When we looked at the possibility that we could have 2, maybe 3 people retire in the next couple of years, my comment was, I don't ever want to be below 34. So that was when the idea came up. Now, the SRO thing didn't go because none of the schools wanted to go with it this year. So instead of going to 37, we were going to go to 36 and hire 2 additional. But this way then, within a year, they're trained, and if we have a retirement, we still have the people out on the street, which I think is critical.
Yeah, it makes sense. Makes sense.
Traditionally, the officers give, or how much notice do officers give when they are retiring? Is there a
No,
way of doing
just
that?
the 2-week minimum, I think, is in the agreement, but some of them are much better about giving us that time frame. But there's a lot of different issues at hand, so suburban law enforcement academies were used for basic academy. They used to run 6 classes a year, so you could usually fit them in a little bit better. Now I believe they're only running 4 a year, and so now it's tougher to get that class and then get that officer in a class. So that hiring sequence, if you don't get it done in time, then you're waiting a whole nother 3 months or 4 months in order to hit that cycle in order to put that guy into basic academy, because you can't do anything with him until they're gone through the basic academy.
Is there much lateral movement between departments?
Too much. A lot of agencies are trying to fix this problem with lateral moves, and all you're doing is stealing from another agency and not adding to the pool and not doing much better. So
We haven't had a problem with it,
No, we're at
moving out.
34.
nor have we brought in people on lateral moves.
Not on a true lateral. The last couple of hires were from another agency that they opted to go through our testing process. So they went through the written, went through the oral, went through all that background investigation stuff that I talked about, and were hired. So we've have hired officers from another jurisdiction, just not through a lateral process.
Any other questions under union salaries for that? Holiday bonus and holiday pay, 6,100 and 4,575.
That's the same issue. So the line of discretionary is those 2 officers'
Okay.
salary. The holiday bonus is the same issue. That would, if you can't do one without the other.
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
then same thing with holiday pay, and I think in medical life insurance, there's another caveat there under discretionary. It's all the same issue with hiring those 2 officers.
And I'm assuming that's the same thing with medical and life insurance as we drop down a little bit.
Correct.
Okay. Under 40-4030, overtime, does anybody have an issue with Darien Fest 4th of July parade or the K-9 Fix OT? Okay. We went down to benefits.
Pat, I'm
Please,
sorry.
go ahead.
Just conversely to this, the Darien Fest issue, we will be getting a request this year because the fest is changing a bit to where we're really partnering and we're leading the way.
Okay.
So the expense side is broken out, and last few years, we've had an agreement with the chamber, who has completely run the event, to get some of that reimbursement back. I think last year was about $4,000.
Okay.
But that'll change once we get the Darien Fest information to the council.
Okay. Gotcha.
Quick question, but on the K-9 fixed OT, there was 14,465 last year, right?
That sounds about right. The
It's always discretionary.
K-9 overtime, well, it's not discretionary. If you're going to have a K-9, you have to pay that fee. There was a federal court case that decided that issue. Now, you can, instead of paying the overtime, the last hour of every day, every shift, would be kennel maintenance. So now you're losing an opportunity cost
No,
because now you're paying
It
that.
should be
get that,
over,
Chief.
Jerry. It should be
Yeah,
maintenance.
last year it was in
Yeah,
non-discretionary.
it should be a
This year it's in
maintenance.
discretionary.
We would move
Correct.
that over.
Oh, okay,
Yes.
that's what I meant, yeah. Because it was, okay, so we're on the same page now.
Yep.
Okay, so dropping down to benefits, the chief already explained medical life insurance and Medicare is part of the 2 officers. Go to page 57, under 40-4203, auxiliary police, uniforms and vests. Pretty standard. Anybody have a question? Nope.
No.
Michael? Okay. Under 40-4205, $1,000 for training and associates. That's pretty standard that we use every year, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. Dues and subscriptions, dues under 40-4213, $2,300. We usually use that same amount, correct? Every year? Okay.
Correct.
Same as last year.
Okay. 40-4217, investigation and equipment, LPR access flock for $30,000.
Yes. Some of you have been updated to the current issue with LPR that we've trying to get done through Vigilant, and that process isn't working very well. So Flock is another vendor, and whether we go with them or another agency in order to get access to Flock cameras, that is the fee that is associated with that.
Okay.
That fee depending on what we wanted to do. So if we wanted to use those cameras as an investigative tool, we would pay that $30,000 regardless of whether we went with them or not. Obviously, it's Flock is the camera that's used mostly in DuPage County, and it would make sense to go with them.
Okay. Any questions? Okay. Nothing else on that page. Let's go down to page 58. Under maintenance of vehicles, car washes, we have it under $4,000 and then another $3,000?
Yeah, I can't remember if it's every second year or every third year, we do a deep clean of the vehicle. So not just car wash, but actually taking a detailing and cleaning up the seats and everything else, not just driving through and having the exterior washed.
Okay. Any questions at all? All right, let's go down to public relations under materials and supplies, 40-4239. Again, don't we use the same number approximately?
It was 3,500.
3,500 last year, yeah.
Okay.
The obviously those programs have been going very well, and we've been giving out a lot of those items, swag or whatever you want to call them, and so it's been working out well. So boost up the discretionary spending a little bit there.
Okay. 40-4243 under rent and equipment, rentals for $3,000.
Yeah, we always put that in there as a help with whatever we may have. So we may need to rent some fencing to block off an area in case of a situation. Sometimes we might want to put out a undercover vehicle, and the best way to put an undercover vehicle is not to buy one, but to rent it for that very specific time frame.
Okay.
And so that's why that's in there.
Okay. 40-4265 travel and meetings. We have $7,200 for lodging and $10,075 for conference, and then another $1,000 for professional meetings. So,
I have a question on that one.
please.
Chief, just the conference, conference and seminars and the lodging. Lodging last year was $6,900, this year up a few $100s, but the conference seminar is up about $2,500. Is there something specific that's triggering a 25% increase there, or?
The big one is the IACP conference. That's the Chiefs Conference. I don't remember where it's at Boston, I believe. And Jason's going, so that was another $4,000. That was a big increase. And then there's some other conferences with a street cop conference that was new. And then I think we were sending 2 extra people to the evidence property handling conference.
So that's under conferences as opposed to the training and education?
Correct.
Okay. Any questions on that? Anything else on page 58? Everything else is pretty standard. Let's drop down to page 59. Vehicle, gas and oil, pretty standard. Utilities, under contractual services, 40-4325. Crime analyst consulting for $7,500 and EOP consulting for 15 grand.
Yeah, those are ugly ones. The crime analyst, we used a person twice for some very specific things. I think on the catalytic converters, and I can't remember what the second one was. So may not need them depending on crime,
Okay.
how it might look. The EOP consulting, that one's a very difficult one. It's required to do. It's almost a full-time job. We had a woman, Mary Pratt, who did that for us for the last couple of years, but I don't believe she's going to do it again this year. She did it at a much reduced price, probably about a third of that. And so looking in the market, this is much more closer to the market than what
3,000
Mary had
increase?
priced.
The
Pardon?
3,000 increase, Chief?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
What's EOP? I'm sorry. What does that mean?
Emergency Operation Plan.
Emergency Operation Plan.
Anything else down there?
Chief, the EOP is a citywide. Why don't you just do a couple sentences more on the EOP? That's a citywide in case something were to
Well,
happen.
it could be. It just depends. So, so you could have a man-made disaster with officer involved, or not officer involved, mass shooting, bomb, whatever the case may be, or you could have a natural disaster, a tornado, earthquake, whatever. And so depending on the situation, most man-made, myself or Jason would be the incident command. If it's not man-made, it's a tornado or something like that, fire department's going to take the lead and be incident command there. Depending on this, the operation, more people from the city are going to be involved. Typically, we have an EOC center that we would set up at our PD. Dan's folks would be there mostly at the end of it, you know, so we might be taking care of life safety and some issues with tornado or damage, but Dan and Dan's crew would come in to rectify and try to get things put back together. Like I said, the fire department could be involved, finance is typically involved, so there's a lot of different people and a lot of different moving parts to that. The EOP, I think that's maybe 3 books. It looks like Dan's master copy here that has to be put in there. You have to have all these emergency contacts and all the information and plans and site plans, and it's a very extensive process.
So that's just constantly
Every year it has to be, by statute, it has to be
Updated,
redone. Yep.
maintained, updated. Okay.
Okay, and dropping down capital purchases, everything under patrol cars and everything is obviously under maintenance requests. The big question that I have for you, when do you think we're going to take delivery of the cars? Some ballpark wise.
Yeah, the admin cars were approved in this current budget, and they were ordered on November 7th, and they said delivery by February. They contacted us yesterday and said the delivery is going to be more likely in March sometime.
Okay.
They said it was going to be a month after issuing the VIN plate.
Okay.
They issued the VIN plate about a month ago, 4 weeks ago-ish. So we're hoping pretty soon on the admin cars. And then the admin cars, they have to go to do some upfitting.
Okay.
The admin cars, investigative cars, very little upfitting, mostly just lights and sirens. The CSO car would need the side markings and the laptop and the printers and all the other stuff that goes in like a marked squad car.
Okay.
The marked cars got permission at the end of December, so we made that order on January 2nd, and they say about the same thing. That they have not issued the VIN number, and they tell us once they issue that VIN, it's going to be about 4 weeks for delivery.
Okay.
But they have not delivered on that one yet. So.
Okay. So we're not sure. Okay.
Correct.
So how old are the ones that we're replacing?
Yeah.
6 years.
6 years?
The squad cars are 6. The admin and investigative cars, I believe, are 8. I know they're 8 because they were here before I got here, and I've been here 8.
What's the average mileage on the
Yeah.
cars? 120?
I was gonna ask you.
They're well over 100. I'm not sure.
I remember back in, in 2009, we used to go 3 years, and then the budget hit, or we had problems, with the national, we went 4 years, and now we're going 6. And
Yeah.
it's,
So
Yeah.
the 12, how many is that are total?
All of them.
Oh, it's,
The squad car, it's all, well, the K9 car we bought last year or the year before. So it's all the cars but the K9 car. All the marked cars and unmarked cars except for the K9 car.
we have 12 total.
Yes.
Okay.
And Dan, do we have I know we have the report card for our vehicles. Is that only for the public works or is that for the PD vehicles as well?
That's for us too.
That's what I thought, okay.
Yeah. And the mileage in the year is sending that up quite a bit.
anything else on police? Nothing? Okay. All right. Chief, thank you. We're gonna go to Dan. We have some stuff some
Yes.
housekeeping items.
Yes, if I can back up a minute, and first of all, I'd like to go back to Alderman Sullivan's comments from the follow-up. We had 4 comments. I'd like to touch base on those. And then for those of you that are following, that is from the Tuesday meeting, and it was emailed Thursday on the 22nd. The first item was the holiday lights. The Administrative Finance Committee would have liked to have more details on a design, rental versus service contract. We did meet with the designer today. We do not have a final price. Is there opportunities to have someone, whether we purchase it or someone else purchase it and stores it, puts it up for us, takes it down? The answer is yes. Unfortunately, I do not have those costs just due to timing. I would respectfully request that if the committee would like to leave it in the budget as is, we'll be coming back with the full details as it progresses, because we're looking at, if it is approved, to either purchase or rent within the next 2 months, because the longer we wait, these items tend to be
Stay
off
tuned.
the shelf.
Thanks, Chief.
Thanks, Chief. Thanks, Jason.
So if there's any questions on that first point, I'd be more than happy to entertain it. There's no questions, then I'll go to number 2, Farmingdale Drive Drainage Project. Mr. Legansky had recently asked me to take a look at Farmingdale Drive, an area of the 8,000 block, and I presented it briefly that evening of the budget. We did go out there, take a look at it, and what we are requesting is the following, and an email was also sent out on this. And there's 2 accounts this would hit, and the reason it'll hit 2 accounts, it's a public works project as well as a rear yard drainage project. So it's 2 in 1. We can't have one without the other. The cost for us will be under capital projects 2535-4376. It's classified as the Farmingdale Drive Drainage. That cost is $93,519. The second part of that is the rear yard drainage project, which is basically $19,491, and that's based on 15 people participating at approximately $1,300. Now, this project, depending on the participation level after we send out the letters, may be reduced. I do not see it increasing. A reduction at best is possible. If there's any questions, again, I'd like to entertain them.
So you don't have 15 who have agreed to it. There would be 15 who you would like to agree to it.
Correct. We've identified 15 properties at this point that would benefit from this project.
Okay.
If there's no questions, I'll move on to number 3, which was follow-up on grinding equipment purchase price versus service agreement. This is in regards to the, from the pilot program from last year for concrete grinding. The question was whether or not we can get the equipment. Unfortunately and surprisingly, the answer is no. We, meaning Chris and myself, has spent several hours trying to research equipment. The equipment that they have rock hard in this case. Why that piece of equipment? Number one, it's a grinder, not a scarifier, and I won't get into the technical terms, the width of it, number two. Number three, there's no dust that this produces due to the water tank that they utilize on this machine. Everything is proprietary. So they have built this machine, and whether or not there's a patent on it, there's hydraulics involved to lift this 2,000-pound grinder up, down, water tank, and the actual vehicle that's in place. So unfortunately, this vehicle is not publicly available. We looked at the manufacturers, and there's no such animal that builds this whole unit. And we called them, obviously, and they told us, well, we're in business for this. We're not selling machines. So again, I wanted to make sure that that was vetted back to the Administrative Finance Committee. So going back to that, again, the goal is to have two projects, one for sidewalk removal and one for the actual grinding. Now, yes, the budget is basically increased, pending on the first round of sidewalk that we remove and replace, which we're starting early due to the great weather we're having. That first round is incorporating only the roads that we're paving. So let's say that we're going to burn up of maybe $100,000 of a $250 for sidewalk replacement. Immediately, we're working on the contract, trying to get that out now, and get the contract out to see how far we can get with that additional grinding, and then we'll reduce the actual sidewalk removal and replacement, if that makes sense. If there's no other questions, I'll move on to the next item, which I spoke too long, and it took me out of password here. Bear with me 1 second. The last question was EV chargers, reduction in quantity from different levels, grant possibilities. Two items on that. Number one, I think that the committee at this point has agreed to at least one charger for the city hall. I recently reached out again to Blink. Blink was the sole source provider or is the co-op provider for these EV chargers, level 3s as well. They have looked at the frontage road location. They are interested in setting it up, collecting the revenues, and paying for the entire project.
Right.
We would have to give, I'll say that we have to just arrange how the lease/land deal would work and where. So that's a little premature. They're sending the agreement over to us, so I do not have further details. But the question is, if this is a full turnkey service that we turn over to somebody else, potentially we may get a residual out of it. I don't know. Does the Admin Finance Committee want to put that item back in there for frontage road, provided that it's going to be a full turnkey operation by someone
So
else?
it wouldn't cost us anything.
Correct, zero.
So who's gonna use it then?
What they're doing is, part of this EV charging program is to have motorists, as they're driving down major highways,
Yeah.
to be able to pull off and charge. So right now, they are looking for sites, and I knew this was out there. I don't know what the proximity is, but it makes sense. Frontage road, I-55, it's a secure location. So, we have an opportunity to do that as well. And I just want to leave that back up to the admin committee here.
So would we place it at Public Works then?
Correct. We would dig out a location where someone comes in, not all the way into the yard, right off the curbing, right off the entrance, if you want to say, in just a small location where a car can pull in and back out.
Dan, would they put signage up on I-55 saying EV charging station 1 mile up ahead or something like that?
The way it works right now is that, I guess there's apps that are out there, and they tell you where the EV stations are. I do not know what the protocol is going to be for the state to implement signage for EV charging stations at this time? Great question, I understand, it's like an Oasis, or, I-55 has identification signs for restaurants, gas stations, so on and so forth. I did not see anything in that respect yet.
What about the grant that you sent me yesterday where they didn't tell you we didn't qualify? They said we've completed, so far we're in the ballpark.
Correct, I was just gonna bring that up. Ironically, we got something back from ComEd in regards to the electric vehicle that says we have received your application, and it's in, and it's being processed. They're supposed to let us know within the next 3 to 4 weeks what that amount will be to us. I'm surprised. Like I said, I did not think that we were gonna qualify for this grant. So I haven't heard anything yet, but I'm keeping my fingers crossed that we'll hear something in 3 to 4 weeks.
That would go for the one charging station
That's
that's
the-
here.
Yeah, I went for the charging station, but I cannot get a grant for the charging stations yet due to the reason that they have to be purchased, as the cars were. So I'm not sure how we got through with the cars. We gave them the dealership and all the information, so maybe that's part of it as well.
So they
But
would pay for the one car that we're going to order.
not the whole thing. I don't know what the total monies is. There's a range, and I don't have that total yet. So,
Dan, the group you're talking with that suggested the Public Works site, did they look at other sites? I mean, how did they pick that over maybe the library, the Park District, where there's, our residents and local traffic that would probably benefit more?
yeah, I guess they're looking at the capital end of it and to be able to,
Expressway.
Be next to a highway. That's one thing I know that they're looking for. They don't want people traveling to the library, for example. So, that's their drive. That's their motivation.
That the facility, obviously, I don't suggest a new facility, but it's crowded now. I don't know how anybody would want to fit another vehicle, a charging station, and more traffic into the lot already.
Well, we wouldn't be going into the lot, Brian. As soon as you pull in off the curb and gutter, we would designate an area right off the right-of-way. So we may have to come back
Yeah, new
for
building.
a variation just due to setbacks. But we could we're squeezing a lot in there right now. And with that, it's really incidental. I mean, cars, a truck, we're not putting semis in there. This is just for vehicles, SUVs. That's it. And they're not staying there for more than half hour to, I should say, 45 minutes.
So if there's room for the charging station, that could be employee parking too, maybe a couple of cars,
No,
but just something, just a couple thoughts.
Yeah, we could look at it. I think we already, with the employee parking, we increased it due to, by the salt shed now, so we have a little more ample parking, but still short, but yeah, this is another opportunity and going green.
If there's no cost, is it really part of our budget discussions today?
The answer is
Because
no.
it sounds great in theory, but it's a theory right now.
Correct.
Without any details, I don't, I'm open to it, I guess is what I'm saying.
What town? I knew you.
I said I'm open to it, but without any details,
Yeah,
it's not a budget item, so nice to know about.
Right.
But I think you
No,
need to bring it before,
Yeah, I'm
in
confused.
a council meeting.
I'm really confused. Because at the last budget meeting, we talked about 3 sites.
Correct.
And I thought we left it because you had a lot of unanswered questions in terms of what even ComEd's piece would even cost us, that we said, okay, let's just look at one site and try to
Correct.
get some good hard numbers.
Correct.
Now we're talking about library, here and Public Works, and we don't even have
I think
good
Tom-
hard numbers on.
Tom is right. The
about the
discussion that Dan just made and I commented on is really not for tonight because that would involve what
Because
Dan
it really
was
has nothing
talking
to do with
about.
our budget.
It doesn't. I think
it's
that was
just
brought up
information.
It's going to be
ancillary.
information that we can look at when you get more information from
Correct.
them, and they can tell you how much space
But
they
we're just-
need,
yeah.
and what the lease agreement
So we're
is going to be,
still
how long it's going to be. There's a
fact
lot of
gathering.
questions.
Right, and the simple reply would be, no, we don't want it. I just wanted to resurrect it due to the new information as information only, so.
So we should pull the 425 from the budget then, because if
Yeah.
we get the one, we have the one over there.
If that's what you'd like to do, sure.
Is that?
Mike, where are you pointing to?
Public
Works.
Works, I'm sorry. Wherever.
right,
I'm inside, I haven't,
That's just a detail I wanted to make sure.
Again, that was not the goal.
think,
That was not the goal. Part of the goal was
have
to,
one here.
right, to have it at the city hall for marketing purposes as well.
I don't know whether that was decided on last week. That seemed
Well,
like
I
that
don't think it
was
has
in
been
the air.
either. I'd like to pull 2/3 of the funds immediately right now, maybe leave one in as a place saver right now. Again, we're still sorely lacking in information as to a lot of the things.
Right, and
so I don't have a problem with reducing it by 2/3.
2/3, yeah.
Correct.
Still
And
gotta come
keeping
back
it in
to
there.
us.
Yeah.
Correct.
It still has to come
And,
back.
and we may have to, we may say no.
Right.
But right now, for the purposes of doing our budget, I think having 1/3 of what the original amount was. would
But
be
even if
fine.
it's down to 1/3, say, Tom, what place makes the most sense? Is it the place by
but
Public
but it's
Works?
apples
or-
and oranges, though. If it the free one is a free one. It's not part of this
Wherever they
discussion
wanna
today.
put it, yeah.
That's the apple. The orange is, do we want to pay money to have one out here?
Dan,
So wait, but do we know for sure that one is a free one?
No, that's but it's,
We're still on the apple.
but we're not budgeting for it. Today, so it
There's
doesn't make a
several
difference.
components. The first component is
Budgeting is
March
zero.
1st is when a new set of grants are coming out for the EV chargers. ComEd is also looking at what the protocol is going to be for the equipment, whether or not there's going to be a charger. I priced it or estimated it at us paying the whole thing. So regardless, it's still coming back, and I don't have the details of how much money we're gonna give for a grant, or if ComEd ComEd may be able to go across the street and tie in, and there's no cost, no cost at all.
I mean, Dan, I don't want to, I mean, we waited, for- you think about Clarendon Hills Road and the sign on Cass. I mean, ComEd has delayed
Oh.
us like a year.
Yeah, but this is
I
a
would
whole
not-
different
right.
agency.
Really?
The
Okay.
grant program is different from being able to turn the light on the sign.
And believe me, it'll probably still take 6 months by the time they get the equipment and all that. So again, if we get the grant tomorrow, comes back to council next day, we're still 6 months out.
I mean, if you want to put a third in just to hold it, but I mean, I'm almost saying zero until we get more information.
Any grant that's been approved by Commonwealth Edison to municipalities that I've learned from other mayors is for something that is done. The communities put the charging station in, and because they put it in, they apply for the grant, and that's how they get the grant. We haven't been approved for a grant because we don't have anything in. We want the money to build it. So if you put it as a placeholder or you approve one here at City Hall, the likelihood of getting a grant becomes better in the future.
But again, don't you need to put it in first based on what you're saying?
No,
No, there's different grants out there. The one I'm looking for is before we purchase it, how much are we gonna get?
Commonwealth Edison wants to know you have it already.
Yeah, there's several different grants out there, and I've been looking at every single one. We have not qualified. Then there's the economic opportunities, for certain towns, if you want to say. So there's another whole sector of that. And part of this was as part of the cohort, we're at a bronze level right now. So we'll never go beyond the bronze level. It'd be very difficult to go beyond the bronze level without not having, let's say, a charger that is at the city hall per se, or at a city complex. And yes,
That
Mike.
would break my
you-
heart.
Again, we're tasked with certain things, and again, we want to make sure that we provide the right information.
Dan, two things. First of all, going back to the turnkey operation where it wouldn't cost us anything, what about the situation of tapping into ComEd? Would that company pay for that?
Yes,
And what about if we had electric vehicles, any of them over there, would we be able to use that free, or do we have to pay for it?
that's something that we'd able to probably negotiate with.
Okay, all right. First, I think everybody's in agreement, okay, that we're reducing this to 150. There's no guarantee on this other placeholder. I really think we should have this discussion also with Joe and Mary here. You know what I'm saying?
I have another question, though. Originally, when you did the initial draft, Dan, the budget was 325.
Correct.
Then it moved to 425.
Correct.
What happened?
The ComEd equipment, that's the wild card, those transformers, and depending on the size of those transformers and the boxes, all the equipment, I looked at it as, roughly 35,000 apiece. I threw
I gotta-
100,000 into it.
So we could still be responsible for that? Or does that roll into the grant process?
It rolls in, I don't know that yet, but yes, it could.
But you're finding that out March 1st, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Is there any way ComEd can kind of guide us and say, what location maybe makes the most sense from their standpoint and maybe is the cheapest and maybe makes more sense because like they're set up for it.
That'd be
I mean,
the
because we're
last-
picking sites that,
That'd be the last organization that I would have come
Yeah,
in.
they ain't
to be
gonna
honest
want
with you,
them.
and pick a location.
Alderman, we went through a 1-year process called the EV Readiness Program through the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus, sponsored by Commonwealth Edison. The reason we got bronze status is we completed all that. Where we should put them, where we would put them commercially, where we would put them residentially. So we don't need Commonwealth Edison. We
Okay.
went through a year.
well, I haven't heard that, so I didn't know we had
Yeah.
places already identified. And if there's commercial places that's identified, are any of them business districts where maybe while the person's charging, they're also buying something at a store? I mean,
Yes.
it's fine having it off the highway, but at the same time, it's like, I mean, all I see on our TV and Channel 6 is, there's 55,000 cars in the whole state of Illinois, EV. I mean, it's not a big number. I think it's, so if we're going to do this, I would like to think that we're going to put it in a location that is maybe economically feasible with ComEd, and maybe it can be in a shopping center or something where it's not just going to the library, but, people are spending money, it's convenience, but at the same time, they're generating sales tax dollars.
Jerry, that's what we're looking at too. Darien, Chestnut Court, for example. That'll be one site. Number two, we had a meeting last night in Municipal Services, just met the individual that bought the plaza, not the whole thing, but I won't get into that, certain parts of it. He's interested in putting in EVs as well. Brookhaven is also interested in, let me tell you, Brookhaven did apply for a grant, if you want to say, when they first started coming out. There was no return phone call. There was just mass chaos with that, I'll call it process.
That was
So-
Tesla.
Okay. No, because like when I go to like Burr Ridge, I hate to compare towns, but Burr Ridge has a whole section in their whole development there, by where all their restaurants, by all their shops, by all their places. And to me, that makes sense in terms of, not only is it convenient for people, but, it can generate sales dollars and people spending money doing other things while they're, and so where they have theirs makes a lot of sense to me than putting it by a public works section that you can rely on a sign for somebody to see it. I mean, the places I'm hearing right now, none of them are appetizing to me, just from what I'm hearing from the public works to here. I just think there's another place within Darien that would make a lot more sense.
In
to-
talking to people
Yeah.
in my ward,
Uh-huh.
and I mentioned City Hall, the optics of it seemed to be the response was, oh, so we're going to take care of the people
Who work
working
here.
at City Hall, and they could charge their cars for free, and we live way over there. I'm not going to drive over there to get my car charged.
That's when you look at them, Ralph, and you say, but if you were in that neighborhood, you could stop in and do it.
Right, exactly.
The goal is for patrons that come to the city hall to be, for 15 minutes, for half an hour, to have an opportunity to charge up. So again, it's being a good neighbor, and again, it's all,
None of those
The other-
places appeal to me. I'll be honest.
The other day, I know that Kohl's has chargers, and I went into that parking lot by mistake because I thought I was going to TGIF, and I realized TGIF was in our shopping center. And I was pulling out, and there's a driveway that leads on the other side of Carrabba's to 75th.
Oh, yeah.
And where that little shopping center, little outlot is, Zoops, they call it,
Yeah.
and some other, they
Noodles.
have 4 easy-go charging stations. So now they not only have them in front of the Kohl's, but they have
Right.
4 of them over there by a small shopping center. And, and somebody says, why wouldn't Walmart have it? Well,
Right.
maybe there's probably 9 of them in that shopping center. So why would Walmart put them in when there's 9 right in the shopping center right next door?
In regard to what Dan said about the app in finding these places, that is 100% true. We don't. It's not important that we know where they're at. It's important that the people who have an electric car, who
Right.
has an app, because that's what they do. They don't look for signs.
Well, I get
They
that.
look
Yeah,
for an
yeah,
app.
they're all
So,
technology, yeah.
so where it is not important to them. because they don't worry about someone seeing it.
Even if you have the app, though, and it says it's here at Darien City Hall, are you going to come to Darien City Hall and just sit there for half an hour, as opposed to what Jerry's saying?
Well, that's a decision they're gonna make.
What Jerry's saying, hey, you're going to a restaurant, makes sense, you're going to be there for an hour, hour and a half, walk around
But
Burr
if the
Ridge,
city has
they
a
have all the
level
stores.
3 and the restaurant has a level 2, that's going to be part of your decision as well.
True.
So,
Like some of the items in the budgets we discussed, if the city council's directing 1 in there, we would continue this conversation when we had more information if we want to move on. But
Sure.
it sounds like that's the consensus, go down to 1/3 of that. Is that what I'm hearing?
But yeah, but this discussion is not finalized.
oh, nowhere near.
No, that's what I'm saying. It has to come back. If we want to talk more about it and Dan could get more information, it'd
Well,
just be
Dan's
better.
going, he said last week it's got to be until March 1st. So we
That's the first initial step, and I'll keep everyone posted. If we have it earmarked, if you don't want to do it, then I'll just pull back and not apply for additional grants or, waste anyone's efforts or time. So that's kind of, I'm looking for some type of direction on 1 or 2, because whatever I do, I got to fill out these applications, and it's asking me for 1, 2, 3, or whatever the case is. So I don't want to miss
Tornado?
opportunities.
But again, the Blink one has nothing to do with
Sirens
it.
went off.
Correct? The one at it.
The frontage road that's
we're
entirely
downstairs.
gone.
So
yeah.
I think we've all discussed, we only want to participate in 1. Whether we agree to have a different one at the frontage road, that's a whole different animal.
Right, and if we want to put the change of location to the library, because we come up with the conclusion that the library is the best opportunity, or the park district, whatever the case
Or the
is,
clock tower.
or the clock tower, perfect, yes.
At least that identifies with Darien still.
Right.
Well, I'm gonna have to find out what this is, because I know Gower West put one in. They have a whole section in their new parking lot when they expanded their school. And I gotta admit, I have never seen a car in there. One
I'm
time.
not sure what the purpose of it would be there. For employees, that'd be about it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean,
But-
it's there, it's beautiful, there's a whole section, I don't know what level it is.
Just one, Jerry?
I think there's like 4, Mayor. And I've never seen a car parked there. And I'm like, what's the point of this? They spent this money, now maybe they got a grant, but I'm like, for what? It's not even being utilized, and that's what I have in my head. I just want to make sure that this is being utilized, and then somehow we get other benefits, that's all.
And I agree, I think the utilization process, the need, is still something that needs to be
But I'll
vetted
find out
out
for
at the
sure
end
what
of the
they
day.
have.
Dan, my question, this grant that you might hear about in March, even if that was a no, let's say we weren't, this is evolving with these grants. So I don't know why that March date would matter if the council wants to put a 3rd in, because we would apply, if the
Right.
council wants one, we would apply throughout the year. It makes sense to leave it in.
As
and
they're
if-
available.
Yeah,
right.
because there'll be more grant opportunities for that, just something to think about.
So leave it in, not at the current number, at 1/3 of the
I think
grant.
that's what I'm hearing. The council wants to leave it at 1/3, and they're talking about a date Dan talked about. Well, if we don't get the grant, that doesn't mean we're not going to get a grant throughout the year.
Yep.
Yeah, and, you're right, and I think
See
March
it in my
1st
ring
is the
at home.
start of a potential, but that doesn't mean that March 2nd, I'm gonna know. It may take 4-8 weeks before we have the final, say on it.
So,
Take a show of hands or something. Get
yeah,
everybody-
maybe a straw poll, so we get direction if we want to
Okay,
put the one in.
so who wants to have
Lady over
the
there.
1/3 for this?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I'd go with the 1/3.
yeah,
Okay.
a 1/3 placeholder, just to,
Placeholder?
yeah.
We're going to vote on it ultimately again.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, because like I said, we want Mary and Joe involved in this,
Right.
no matter what, for feedback. So we'll just placehold it for right now, okay?
Well, at this point, if I may recommend, we're in a think tank here, if everybody wants to make some notes, jot some notes down, and send them to me, what their concerns are, I think that will be very helpful, versus just Dan orchestrating what he thinks, like to, kind of involve and engage everyone, because we're hearing all these different opinions.
The two biggest things that we keep coming back to is, one, is it really going to benefit enough people where we place them at, whether it's City Hall or, municipal services? And two, ComEd's the hidden gorilla on this one. We don't know what it's gonna, what do we have to upgrade? That's my concern, big time.
Chad, what we really need is we really need to hear from our business owners that they want to put them in their centers.
Right, and that's exactly it.
If Kumar redoes Chestnut Court, and he puts in charging stations, that's a benefit.
Right.
If John Manos puts in charging, we recommended to John to apply for a grant through Tesla to
Home
put
run
a
in.
charging station in, and that's the one Dan talked about. He got no response. John applied, but he got no response from them. I mean, that would be another location.
Well, especially if they want to put multi-use there and apartments and, I
Well,
mean.
Jerry,
those kind of
that's a
things.
good point.
I
Now, we
mean,
need to keep in mind, there's a law that just went into effect. When Chestnut redevelops and they have multifamily, they're required to have so many units as well as any new construction. So that's a law that just went into effect.
And the new apartment complex that they, in the garage, underground garage, they have charging stations.
They will
in
have
there.
five stations.
But if those places are all doing it, why do we have to do it? I guess would be my
Because
question.
we're a role model for everybody else, Michael.
Because why?
We're a role model for everybody else.
I've never been.
Well, I'm doing it in cooperation with.
Thank God.
Well, Ted, I think we got what we need from the straw
Don't
poll.
even try.
Anything else on this discussion?
No,
Okay,
let's
so
move
just one
on.
more-
I was going to say, Dan, what's the other item you had?
The other
Let's
point
go
was
on.
the Vector versus the VACCON. I think, Jerry, you spearheaded that, and I think that the questions have been satisfied on your last visit with the guys, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, the only concern, I know you talked about going to a different model or.
Right.
Manufacturer because.
And that was all technical
It's going to
stuff.
be $50,000 more. and
Correct.
I mean, if there's good reason to do that, again, I had another incident on my block where it must just be the bad year for Farmingdale that we've had. I can't tell you, every week we seem to have a water leak. And the guy just driving identified the leak. I forgot his name. And then they came with this Vector, what it was.
VACCON right now,
And then they
correct.
were able to drill a small area of a parkway, and from there they could identify exactly where the leak was. So they only had to dig up half of the neighbor's driveway because it was close enough to where they could get it. Where before he said they probably would have dug up the entire driveway to find the leak. So I mean, there's just another benefit from talking to the guys of how that thing has been able to identify these smaller leaks in a lot smaller area without having to dig up a bunch of stuff, which it's just less.
Sure, restoration, there's a
repair,
value.
Yeah, so.
And to follow up to that was also whether or not our machine, if we purchased a machine, whether or not could be rented by other municipalities. Burr Ridge is going under the same process that we are right now. Okay, and keep in mind, when this machine is utilized, a lot of it is during emergency. So when there's an emergency, we're not giving it out. No one's giving it out. So that's a side note. Westmont just purchased one. Willowbrook is probably the only contender right now. We're trying to get a hold of Clarendon Hills to see if there's any opportunity with them. But that's the extent of it.
And which one, and you said Westmont was going with which one again?
Westmont recently just purchased one, a brand
Which
new.
one?
Vector,
Vector?
yes. The Burr Ridge,
Which one, Dan, is $50,000 more?
the Vector.
The Vector?
Yes.
That's because the other one has a part that seems to break down.
It's a
more.
part in the way it's built. It has the opportunity to be more troublesome, and the minimal expense on that could be an average of $35,000 if that part goes bad.
So we're chasing good money after bad on the lower model one.
So we get, again, will it happen? It's when it'll happen.
Jerry, you've seen this thing in your neighborhood a few times.
Yeah, it's like every
Unfortunately,
week.
he has.
Dan, I actually saw it at the Taco Bell last week in dark time, about 9 o'clock. I don't know what they were doing, right in front, and it's where a manhole cover is at.
I'm not sure if they could have been, may have been our guys pumping the water out of a vault because those things fill up with water.
Okay.
Occasionally, and they couldn't get to a valve, or it was a sanitary sewer. And, to pump those things out in 5 minutes is phenomenal, especially when you're trying to locate a valve in a 6-foot vault that's, 10 foot deep or whatever the case is.
Okay.
So I think that was the
But I wanted to bring up that I think for the council to know that it does sound like it will save money in other areas in terms of restoration because you can dig a lot smaller hole to see where the problem is.
Versus you cut your man hours in terms
Yeah.
of work.
And talking to the guys with, like Eric, I know you've been concerned about the safety of the guys in terms of,
Yeah.
I mean, they just were like,
Yeah.
it is a lot safer for us because of if it's by utilities and electric and
Yep.
that, so.
Yep.
Well, the answer we were trying to solidify was, Dan's original proposal versus his revised. If the council supports the revised, then we would work on that one in the final
I think
budget.
the revised is the only way to go,
Right.
you know?
Agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The 550 worth.
All right.
versus-
Yeah.
It's good money, you know what I mean?
Alrighty.
Wish you'd have bought it a year ago before,
What a
before
shame.
we rented it.
We would have gone through the same research, no questions asked. I will not.
So
We might have
Dan,
got stuck with the wrong one then.
You showed
Oh, that's a good point, yeah.
275 in water and 275 in streets.
That is correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Everybody good with that?
Yep.
Okay. All right, let's go down to the water fund budget, and that would be page 224. Everybody get down there? $224, if you take a look at the page, it's, you know, have our water sales going out, basically FYE all the way to 27. The big key on it is if you take a look at the rate for water at the bottom line is, right now we're at 9.75. We've been there for a few years, from what I remember, right?
Since 2017.
Okay, so, you know, 6-7 years, and then we're going to $10, so not much of a difference, so, okay. Any questions on that page at all?
Well, the only comment I have to make, I talked to Brian about this, if you notice, there's a miscellaneous income line, $598,000. And I think what Brian's doing here makes a lot of sense, taking the water depreciation fund balance, moving it into the water fund, so they're consolidated, so that'll be the total amount in there. You still might need the water depreciation at some point if we ever have to go for a bond issue or something, but I think it makes a lot more sense to consolidate those two.
Okay.
Like he's done, Brian.
Yeah, no, we, just what you said, Mike, I don't need to reiterate, but typically in our 3-year budget, I've been doing this for a number of years. The second and third year project out that 25% increase for the purposes of this, and we have not had to do that, even though it says it here, obviously like everything else, it's not set in stone, and we've been able to, you know, push that increase out. We have a couple of changes that we'll do, you know, on, like all the budgets, some gallon pumpage information. So the numbers you're seeing now will be adjusted slightly, nothing material, but when you get the final version, again, based on what we're billing to date, which is more new information, and the DuPage Water Commission solidified their rate in the draft budget. So that rate they are approving is lower than what I use for the budget estimate. So we'll have a little bit of change.
Just out of curiosity, we built the water tower, what, was it 2010, 11, 12?
2006, 2005, 2006. that was a time ago.
And we paid that off a long, long time ago, correct? I guess the question, we don't have any, our needs, we don't see anything on the horizon for a new water tower anywhere?
I anticipate probably within the next, the fourth year, next year, I should say, for budget purposes, we'll probably be looking at a potential painting on it. The paint is typically good for anywhere from 12 to 15, 17 years. I know that when we did it, we specified a coating. I want to say it's oxide something, but regardless, it's held up very well and still looks aesthetically
Dan,
pleasing.
you're talking about the lighthouse?
Yes.
The one over by
Yeah.
Sylvia's area, we repainted that just a few years
That
ago.
was, I think, in 2000.
I think
15?
I think I did see a couple of communities got their tanks painted and by a third party, and they put up advertising on there, so it didn't cost them anything to paint.
Sure.
I don't know.
We had discussed that years ago.
Yeah, I remember we,
With advertising, and again, the consensus was that we didn't want to advertise because then we opened it up to all the groups.
But it is expensive, if I remember right. The one on Lamont Road was about $500,000.
Yeah,
think,
I know.
for that.
I think it was they were $250,000. I think we did two of them simultaneously. We did the Wilmette and the Farm.
save that money, it'd be nice.
The reason I bring this up, when we built the lighthouse, we needed it big time.
Yes.
Okay.
Pay for it, I don't want to pay for it.
We got the award for it. That's another story. But down in Eric's ward, near where Sylvia's at, that one that handles that for that area.
They're all commingled.
Okay.
Pressures, adjusting stations, so I'm not gonna get into how the whole system works, but they're not separate, so that's tank does not serve just them.
Okay.
All our tanks serve everyone and then some, and
Okay.
unincorporated.
Okay, because the only reason I'm asking, that's the smallest tank that we have in probably the city of Darien. I'm just making sure there's not on the horizon 10 years from now that,
We inherited that one, too.
Yeah.
When we annexed Farmingdale
correct.
Village.
There's
So-
no need,
That's-
unless there was something structurally that became defective
That's what I
on
needed to know.
that. That's,
Okay.
yeah, other than that, there's no need to
Perfect.
expand tanks.
Okay. All right, let's go down to page, actually, water fund budget, go page 2. Let's just go right down to page 226. And we'll start under salaries, okay, 50-40-10. Salaries, we're gonna looking at a new hire for 65,791 and overtime with them at 2,500.
That's correct. And
Yeah.
again, I think we,
Isn't that the one we identified just not too long ago?
with
Yeah.
municipal services, right, same thing, it's one in each department.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
yeah, and then down on benefits, obviously medical, life insurance, that's all with the new hire, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, under operating, all right, down for 15,000 under 50-4219. So Class 3 safety vests, night operators 2,500, and OSHA compliance program of 12,500.
This commingles, the first one, the safety vests, they're items that OSHA requires for night visibility. Obviously, everything is based on more safety today than it ever was, and these vests, as soon as the light hits them, I mean, they're very reflective, so that's safety related. The second part is the OSHA compliance program, that dovetails with the streets program, that's a 50-50 split of 25,000. Again, this is policies that we as staff just cannot keep up with. The policies keep on changing. Our insurance company requests that we are doing certain things. Quick example, for us to be able to work on this, on a light bulb, let's call it that we have to change out this fixture. We would have to go through a procedure to fill out paperwork, number one. Number two, we'd have to have a lockout tag. Every employee that has a opportunity to turn that circuit on has their own lock and key, more or less, to where they do a tag out. So it just gets more and more complex. So again, we just finally said, we need to have somebody that could write our policies, and we keep them on the shelf, and it also helps us with insurance, whether it's a better rating, lower premiums, so on and so forth.
Okay. Any issues, questions? Okay. All right, let's go down to operating 50-4223. And let's go to page 227, unless anybody has anything at the bottom of 226. Let's go on down to plant number 2, pumping station to replace generator transfer switch for $90K.
That generator is still probably part of the original, when the old tank was still up. The generator is a diesel, it's a diesel monster, okay? It's been having maintenance issues. The maintenance issues keep nickel and diamond. That's run on a monthly basis. Is it dependable? 75% of the time it's dependable. It's the 25% that I'm concerned about, because it's going to be that 25% when we have a tornado, like potentially tonight, that we're going to need to kick on that generator. So we want to go to eliminate the diesel, number one, because of the particulates that it creates for the air, the atmosphere. The second is, the second opportunity is that we can get a gas generator that runs quieter, more efficient, and as powerful, if not more powerful.
How old is the current one?
It's every bit of 20, minimal of 20, if not 27
Okay.
years old.
Okay. All right. Plant number 2, western property line fence, remove and replace.
That's, again, it's an aesthetics project. When I say aesthetics project, some of the existing fence is rotting. Some of it has been hit by the patrons of Brookhaven and/or potential contractors that were in there. Obviously, we can't police it all the time. And that fence is approximately, let's see, since 2005, so about 20 years in age. It's more or less a decorative fence, and it's wrought iron and simulated wrought iron. It cannot be painted. It cannot be just parts removed and replaced. It needs to be removed on that west side and matched in with the rest of it.
Questions? All right. And then Public Works window and ADA entrance door replace, half to streets.
Again, this is part of a $74,000 budget. This is for windows and/or doors at the Public Works. Again, the infiltration of air, especially during wintertime, is really just unbelievable. There's no energy factor to that at all. Our heat stays on all day and all night long in order to keep the guys warm that are in the office.
Okay. And then Public Works facility tuck pointing on the south side.
Yeah, just simple maintenance. It's brick and mortar, so sometimes the mortar tends to be obviously loosen up, and the mortar needs to be chipped out, scraped up, and refilled with a brand-new mortar, so the entire side will all be consistent.
And we will have a place to store the new, what is it, vac?
Factor, that's top priority. The guys, that we've already spoken to them. We got one bay that's going to be dedicated to that machine, which will fit in there, which has been measured out as well.
Okay, gotcha. Anything under that section at all? We got maintenance equipment, nothing there. Maintenance of vehicle, pretty standard. 50-4231, maintenance of the water system. Wilmette Storm Sewer, half to streets for $39,000, so I'm assuming that's a $78,000 project?
Correct, and what it is, this will be done in-house, number one, and what it serves is, when we have to drain the tank, whether it's for maintenance and/or routine purposes, there's no storm sewer system on that block, so in order to drain it, it could take us a period of up to 48 hours. We don't want to flood everything. Plus, also, we do need a storm system down that block, and this could not be tied to any residences. Number one, it's our property, basically fronting the water tower on Wilmette, and then the school. So it's just another avenue where a storm sewer should have been installed when development was in progress. Again, was it an oversight? Was it a dividing line between subdivisions? So it may have not been an oversight, but that's the gist of it.
Okay. And then Sunfire portable heater for $3,000?
That's the actual heater for when they go out on water main breaks, for example. It's just a source of 30 degrees, 20 degrees. You're wet, gloves are wet, try to warm things up.
Gotcha. Any questions on that area at all? Postage mailing's pretty standard. Quality control, 50-4241, pretty standard. Rent and equipment, nothing there. Supplies, office, pretty standard. Operation, liquid chlorine, pretty standard. Go ahead.
Stop a second, Ted.
Yeah,
Just
sure.
the operating supplies, 4,500. Last year was 2,500. I think we're within budget this year, so.
Oh,
Is there something special in that one?
The liquid chlorine,
yeah.
I know that everything has
Oh,
been
yeah.
switched over to
Okay.
liquid chlorine unless there was a
sorry.
price increase.
Okay.
I can double check on that. And I'm not sure if last year's included the last turnover from gas, because we no longer use gas chlorine.
It did.
That's fine. I'm okay.
Fine, okay.
Yeah,
50
which is not in there now, yeah.
50-4263, training and education, just $1,000. Anything particular that's for, if not?
No, we tend to keep that in there. For example, last year, again, we keep on motivating the crews to go and get better educated. Paul Devine recently, last year, became a certified arborist. Excellent. That's for succession purposes and to be able to, have two arborists on staff and coordinate their, the research. So I think it's a great asset, and I think a prime example of that is the tree at the Historical Society, which they
That they
just
don't
went
use
out
them.
there to.
Oh, boy.
Dan, quick question. Why,
They agree?
They all agreed, yeah.
Did I?
why,
Yeah.
why was the CDL training a carryover?
One more time, I'm sorry.
The CDL training, why was that a carryover from last year?
We're trying to, we didn't,
Because last year was like zero and it was like 17,500 discretionary, and now it's in the budget, but it also says carryover, so we didn't
correct.
do it?
It's, the CDLs that they currently have are a Class B. With the trucks and the weights, and especially with trailers, we're exceeding the weight limit of where A licenses could or should be required. This gives us the opportunity to go down to the training center for the union, and they train them, get them all set for the actual CDL. There's two different programs, but that's one of them. So going from a B to an A license.
No,
I think the question was, why didn't we spend it last
yeah, why didn't we spend it last year?
We didn't have the opportunity they were booked.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I'm sorry, yeah, I mistook that.
I'm okay with the dollar, I'm just curious, why didn't we get it
Right.
done already?
They were booked, we couldn't get the timing, we had just project issues and couldn't get the
Okay.
guys out there.
Dan, just for curiosity, Chris is our certified water.
Plant operator, correct.
Okay, do we have another one, or is it just Chris for right now?
Matter of fact, yes, we just did that with Don Busey. We were fortunate, we put out an ad
Okay.
for a water plant operator, basically received nothing.
Oh, boy.
So we had put it in-house first, and there was no response really. And then we approached Don. Well, Don is a certified water plant operator. He's the guy he's the little vertically challenged guy that has the opportunity, comes out very happy all the time, takes your water samples, takes them to the lab. I don't think anything ever upsets that guy, but, so he stepped up to it, and we basically gave him, ended up costing us $3,000 more, and Mayor Marquez just signed all the operator in charge forms for the EPA, so now we have two responsible individuals. So when
good.
Chris goes out of state, when Chris goes on vacation, alternating weekends, Don is the responsible party.
That's good. Okay, perfect. So, 50-4269 under uniforms, we have budgeted 8,100, but then there's a discretionary for 3,000.
That's the union contract.
Okay.
Wait, but last
Why is
year's
it
budget was 3825, so it's more than doubled.
And why is
Is that the new
discre-
employee, Ted, if it's under
Oh,
discretion?
I'm sorry, 3,000 is the new employee, yes,
Oh, okay. Okay.
my fault.
Does that make sense? Okay. Gotcha.
No, but it's 81 plus the 3, right?
Correct.
But last year was 3825 for uniforms, and now it's 8,100 plus the 3. So you went from 38 to over 11,000.
That's the new contract, Jerry, that was signed in between, the uniform allowances increased from the last union contract to this contract. And I believe that's your
Double?
question. The increase, yes.
Double?
Probably it was very, very low. It was just what I think was about $400. And that, I think that went to $850. I don't have that
I don't have the
particular page,
breakdown on
but
it.
Oh, okay.
But at the same time, our budget at the end of the year, we handle it to the point where, okay, guys, you need your jackets, go get your jackets, get us some receipts. We have certain stores, and they're very good about it because there's a balance. We don't give them a check at the beginning of the year, so it's whatever they need, so we don't end up spending the funds all the time.
Any questions?
Boots are the most expensive on that, so they're anywhere from $250 to $400 for a pair of boots.
Yeah.
Wow. Contractual services, pretty standard. Data processing, county meter reading and billing. And then DePage Water Commission, 5.4 million. That's been pretty steady and correct? What was it
Correct.
last year? I'm just.
What, the DePage Water Commission? 5,008,000 roughly budgeted.
Okay.
the actual, they charge us per thousand.
Right.
And, there's been years where they've been able to hold it steady.
Okay.
And I believe the last 2 years, maybe a 20-cent increase, Ted, I don't recall. It wasn't anything, I would say,
Outrageous.
nothing drastic.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. Going to page 229, Janitorial service is pretty standard. 50-4350 Forestry.
I just have a quick one on that, just a minor one, Dan. It's saying half to streets for the first two items, fertilization, City Hall and Public Works, 192 and 465. The street says 441 and 740. So the amounts differ if we're doing 50-50. I think the 192 and the 465 were last year's amounts.
And we'll check and clean that up.
I'll pull I'll pull the spreadsheet, Mike, and see what happened, but it should be the same as last year, and if there was a mistake on last year's, then it followed through for some reason.
I'm not seeing anything for forestry for last year. Am I missing something?
Should have, yeah, it was in there.
No, I'm just comparing it to the streets. It's saying half to streets and half to water.
Right, but, yeah, I'm with you, Mike, but on 50-4350, in last year's, that's all I can,
Yeah, it's not in the water
It's like a whole new
department budget from
account.
last year.
right.
did?
So I'm saying
Oh,
it was
you know
zero.
what, yeah, that's, Mike, let me
Brian-
check that. I'm not sure when we broke it out, because we have a whole chart now on an Excel spreadsheet that dedicates all the properties that we have. So I think I may have revamped that last year. That's why it may be different. Let me take a look at that.
Yeah, because in last year's budget, there's no
That
50-4350 at
does
all.
not exist in
It's
here in
zero.
water last year.
Right.
That could very well be, yeah.
Got it.
We just-
Okay.
There was no good place to put it and identify it.
Understood. Okay, thank you.
But I'll vet everything up there.
Okay. Anything else from that section? Let's go down to capital purchases, 50-4815. The first question that I have for you, and it's under maintenance, budget maintenance, $200,000 carryover, okay, for the Public Works garage floor.
Correct.
Did we not, what happened, we didn't do it last year, or?
Well, we did not do it, just due to timing. The projects there were so many projects going on, and it was never a good time. So we have to clear out the garage one half at a time, literally take out every piece of equipment, tools, so on and so forth.
Okay.
So again, it's the logistics were not able to be performed.
Okay. All right, so let's drop down to the towable attenuator. I don't even know how to pronounce it, for
Yeah,
21,000.
basically what that is, and I'm sure you've all seen on the highways, for example, you'll see, well, not that many trucks, but at the Illinois Department of Transportation, you'll see a line of trucks. The last truck will have this big, I'll call it a bed. It's about 3 foot high, the width of a lane. And what it does is, it's the last vehicle that if somebody hits it, the impact is not detrimental to the driver of the truck or the motorist that hits it. So again, this is in line with OSHA regulations, OSHA safety practices, so on and so forth.
Gotcha. Leak logging system, system-wide 3-year plan, 220,000.
Correct. This is from I believe it's a 3-year plan, and this will be the second-year plan, right, Brian, if I'm not mistaken?
Believe so.
It should be the second-year plan. These leak loggers have been fantastic. We can identify leaks the day they start. Through the charts, we'll try to have an open house or something. We even identified on one where a resident's water pipe broke, and the loggers picked it up. The guys went out there, traced it to that house. The resident wasn't home. I don't know if they were on vacation or whatever the case is. We turned off the Buffalo box, gave them a notification, so it's just been phenomenal how many leaks that we have found already in the locations that they're set.
Does this have anything to do with fire hydrant leakage?
Yes,
Okay.
it
so-
could, yes.
Okay, because I keep thinking of back, what was it, 10 years ago? When we had the fire hydrant, in the forest that leaked out,
Yeah.
almost $200,000
Right.
worth of water? Nothing we could have done about it.
Well, ironically, they had a pipe break at the Army base.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's where it was, right adjacent to that. Recently, a water main broke in their base, and the loggers picked it up. I can't tell you how many hundreds of thousands of gallons that filled up their basements. So they had to shut it down.
Oh, boy.
So what do we do now? We have no system now that does this?
We have part of it in place. So I believe and I forgot how many the total were. I'd have to take a look at it. But this is something that the city council approved now 2 years ago now, or a year ago? Was it 2 years
I
ago?
think this is the second year, Dan.
Yeah, so I'd have to double, again, I'm not sure on that, but it's starting to pay off for itself.
Yeah, do we still use the camera to go in and check the the pipes with the camera?
Storm sewers, yes, yes,
Okay.
definitely.
Dan, could you maybe just add quickly the annual leak test, if you're still doing that?
Oh, the annual leak test, we're gonna be going out to bid for the annual leak test, and this will probably be the last year, if not maybe partially next year, it'll be reduced. And the reason for that is these attenuators, so that's gonna be a cost of roughly $15,000 a year we'll be saving.
So Jerry, we used to do that you're asking what we had that in place. They would do it once a year on the whole system and look for leaks at that one time.
Oh, God. So it's just a point in time.
Just a
Correct.
point in time,
This
yeah.
is
ongoing.
This is real time.
I'm sorry, yeah, I didn't reiterate the whole,
Yeah,
reiterate
okay.
the whole, all right.
So this is more real time than just a point in time. Okay.
All right, so let's go down to truck 402 for 125,000. Carryover. Imagine that.
Same story. Again, nothing to be said about this. It's availability. So, and this one is earmarked, I think, for delivery. I have to double check. I thought it was June, so I can't.
We're actually gonna get one.
Are we really?
We'll see.
Everybody believes
We have
that.
one
Stand on
coming
your
in
head.
April, so I
We're all
don't.
gonna show up in the parking lot and celebrate.
Exactly.
The first ride, Ted.
22.
No, that one's not from 22. That one's from last year. But we do have.
Oh,
one-
last year says it was a carryover from 23.
Then-
So I'm just wondering how many.
It might be,
Carryovers
I've
is
got
bad.
the whole list there, and I can forward that to the city council. They can see our proposed inventory, or lack of inventory, and anticipated delivery dates.
I'll keep my comments to myself. It's nothing we can control, is the bottom
No.
line. And hopefully, willing that we'll get some trucks and let's just move on from there, so. Vector truck, we already talked about it, but we need to up that from 250 to 275, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Diamond wire guillotine pipe saw, 17,500.
Another safety item. Unfortunately, we had an employee that got injured this year, using a piece of equipment that basically buckled with the pipe and hit him in the face. So
Is he okay?
he's okay, yeah. So he might need some additional cosmetic treatments, but we'll see. And with that said, this piece of equipment is basically a guillotine, and it's a wire guillotine designed to cut iron pipe. And we're cutting iron pipe. It's not a 1-inch. It's 6-inch up to 15-inch.
Wow.
So again, this is just an enhancement for the department, based on the issue.
And then, just going right down to the end, basically, on the debt retire, so it looks like our 2012 bond will end the year after next.
Yeah, the 12 bond is this year and one more year. The 18 bond, we have budgeted 3 more years. Next council meeting, because these are general obligation bonds, that means they're levied on property tax. So what we've done for forever is we're able to account for those payments in the water fund. So we have a bond ordinance abatement, so the county does not collect that amount of money in real estate tax.
Okay.
And that'll be on the next agenda.
Because we've been doing that forever, haven't we? Or?
Yeah, forever.
Any other questions under the water budget? Okay.
Ted, I'm thinking if we skip over to MFT and do that, it's very quick, and then Dan could go.
Okay. Let's do MFT real quick. Let's see, what page is that on?
Yeah.
Way to back, I think.
towards the bottom, I'm assuming.
285, it starts 10.
285, yeah.
Okay.
I think Dan has mentioned this before, the MFT budget is revenue from the state based on population. The uses are statutory, so you can't use it for anything you want, so Dan does an annual plan. This particular year, because we have built up a small balance, we're able to use a large part of that towards this year's road project, which relieves some of the pressure off the capital projects fund.
Okay, so let's start with 285. Let's go down to page, any questions on 285 to begin with?
No.
If not, let's go to 286. We have, pretty standard salaries, Social Security, IMRF, crack seal program, aggregate, salt, 122,000, rock salt, 111,562. What does that come out to per ton approximately this year?
I
Let's take a
think
look.
it's about $80. I might be reducing that at this point based on the rain you're hearing now. So, again, just an anomaly again, and I'm gonna probably reduce it. While I'm reducing that, I'm gonna be increasing the street maintenance. Our goal is to do our street maintenance program all out of MFT. And we need to do, and we're doing it through IDOT format. So the total's gonna be 1.8975. So we're gonna make that adjustment, and we're gonna take the remainder out of the streets there, which I believe was 300,000, Brian?
Thereabouts,
Whatever
yeah.
it was, yeah.
So are we sitting on a lot of inventory of salt and chemicals and stuff because we just haven't used it?
Chemicals, yes, we are. We're not purchasing anymore. We're under no financial commitment or contractual commitment to purchase anymore. The salt, we had a total of this year, 1,100 tons. Out of the 1,100 tons, we have two different types of salt. We need to take 80% of that, so roughly 80% of that is 800 tons or something to that tune. Right now, Chris is taking a look to analyze how much we could fit in the bin. Once whatever we can fit in the bin, we'll be at full supply in storage, which is about 3,000 tons. Okay?
Is there a time you have to take it by?
We typically, the vendors, we've been very fortunate with the last vendor that they let us carry it over till we needed it, November, December. So we're hoping this year's contract, I think, is Compass Materials. So we're hoping we're gonna have the same arrangement with Compass, that they're gonna store it, not charge us when it comes time, next November, that we
So
take
who does
that
like this
inventory.
whole like roll forward and we've, you know what I mean, like to account for it all?
That's what they did last year. That's what he's saying. Last year, we didn't take our full 80%, so they let us purchase it this year.
Yeah.
It was at last year's contract, which
Right.
interestingly enough, was less expensive than this year's contract by a couple dollars.
Right.
Which actually saved us some money. But now if we have to do it again this year, is what he's saying, that this company, because last year I think was Morton. if I'm
Morton,
not
correct.
mistaken.
Yeah, this, last year, I think it was a little bit over 300 tons that we had to take. And 300 tons could be one storm.
3,000.
That hail?
Yeah, it sounds like hail, yeah.
Should have taken my wife's car.
Is it hail?
Hail damage out there, it's really coming down.
What do you call their car insurance?
But I mean, but overall, we should be way under budget just because we just haven't used a lot this year.
Yeah, well, he's lowered, this budget is dramatically lower than it
Yeah.
typically is. It's usually over $200,000.
Got it. Okay.
So I just figured it was less because we can only store so much.
Correct.
And you do run the risk
Okay.
of them not allowing you theoretically to purchase it next year. I don't know whether Compass will be quite as gracious, we'll see.
Again, we've reduced our salt usage, and unfortunately, I can't give you a good analogy or good statistical information, again, just due to the anomaly of weather we've had for the last 2 years.
We could have 2014 where we ran out of salt and we were paying, what,
The
a buck
barges,
30?
the barges couldn't get through, right.
Oh, man, that was a nightmare.
$130 a ton.
That was a nightmare.
I would think they'd honor it because for next year, they got to be sitting on a ton of it too. They got to be offering it at lower prices next year. So I think they'll be pretty happy to get it at this year's prices, just my guess.
Although we said that last year is $2 more,
$3.
right, okay.
Thanks, Sean. Under capital purchases, 60-4855, street maintenance, the 1.3, have we always paid for that out of MFT?
No.
When
I
did
try
that
not,
change?
I try not to do that.
Okay.
For the simple reason, when we do MFT format, it's anywhere from 10 to 15% more just to the format that needs to be followed. For example, when we use MFT monies, we have to create what's called a strip test. So let's say we're doing Bailey Road.
Okay.
We have to take, the contractor has to come in and basically take, I forgot if it's 150 feet, 300 feet, mill it on the operation we're gonna do, come back in and put the product down of what they're using. It gets approved through a third-party company, TSC in this case, who tests it for nuclear density, which there has to be a 93% or passing, and then somebody's at their plant taking the actual sample of the bituminous to make sure of what the concoction is made out of.
Okay.
So Ted, every once in a while, we'll get a balance, and over the last few years, there was a surplus of MFT money, there was a supplement to municipalities.
Okay.
So as that builds up, we use it as for what Dan said, yeah.
Because if we don't use it, we lose it, right?
Well, part of this is still RBI funds. We have a
You're
balance.
restricted, sort of like the police, you're restricted in
To a
what you can
certain
use it
item,
for.
okay.
So it makes sense. And we did pull it from here maybe about, what, 3 or 4 years ago?
Yes.
As the funds built up.
There's a
Like
s-
he said,
yeah.
there's another step, and it's more expensive doing it that way. But that's why I highlighted, if you remember, that the capital projects this year, the street redo was
right.
way down, but projecting into the next couple of years
Gotcha.
was gonna go back up because won't be here.
Okay.
And there's approximately $300,000 in this fund that's referred to as the RBI funds that we have not spent yet. We have to spend that by January 1st, 2025, or we lose it. And the RBI funds need to have a shelf life of something that is used within the right-of-ways for a period of 13 years.
Okay.
Christmas decorations. Sorry.
That's a great idea, Mike. I didn't even think about that.
Oh, boy.
You want to do that? We'll take,
75th Street.
Flashing arrows,
Anything else for Dan under this section?
red and green
Well,
arrows.
real quick though, so on the crack seal, maybe I missed that, but we went from 150, I mean, last year 227 was discretion. I'm sorry. I'm good.
Okay,
My bad.
all right.
No problem. Anything else there? Since the page is next, should we just do special service area fund real quick, or not?
There's not much there. It's a special service we have to
Terra Hill.
maintain the Terra Hill wetlands.
Yeah.
We have professional services and/or burn, and we do 3-year projections there.
Yeah, there's nothing,
very
there's,
well, very
there's,
well managed by staff and our consultant.
yeah,
on
there,
that.
I mean, after 12, 13 years, nothing's really changed on it, it's always got the
We
same
had
thing.
problems when we first, years ago, but it's all been rectified, inspection processes, so on and so forth.
Okay. So, if anybody has any questions on that, let's just go back up to, council. So we'll start there.
Okay, Dan, that's it, right?
Anything else for Dan?
I think so.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks, Dan.
You.
Are we doing revenue at all, or?
It's up to you, yeah, let you want to, please, if you want to start with revenue.
No, I don't care what order, I just wanted to make sure we don't overlook revenue.
You guys want to start with revenue? Let's start with revenue. So we're going to be looking at page 2. Is there anything that jumps out? Michael, you might want to,
Yeah, I've just got a couple things here, just on the cable franchise revenue, Brian, we're projecting 420. We're at 306 through January 31st. I know they pay quarterly, but are we still comfortable with that number?
Yes.
Okay, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. That's all I have on that page.
okay.
I do have something on the next
Well,
page.
and
What page, I'm sorry, what page are we on here?
I'm sorry.
two.
That was
Page two.
page 2.
No, I was wondering on the
Cannabis.
state income, the actual, we're thinking at 3.4, and we're only budgeting 3.1. It's actually going lower.
Yeah, we, definitely on state income tax, we budget conservatively. I'll take numbers that the Illinois Municipal League estimates give us, and I'll reduce that for revenue purposes, and hopefully it will come out better than this. Just being conservative. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that does vary from year to year, because like he said, the Illinois Municipal League comes out, I don't know if you've read that magazine, but you'll see the per capita dollar amount.
Yeah.
And they revise it several times a year, so Brian usually works with that number. And you will see it fluctuate periodically, because the income tax varies a lot depending on capital gains. If it's a good stock market year, your capital gains will be up. If it's a bad year, it'll be down. So, I mean, I would
Okay.
hope with the kind of year we've been
And the
having.
same thing on the local use, same thing, you're just being conservative, which
Yeah.
I'm okay with.
The one thing, do you want to talk about the sales tax at all, Brian, based on
Yeah.
what Pritzker is proposing?
That's
or do you
scary.
don't want to talk about
Well,
that?
I mean, they've proposed a lot of things. The last proposal was elimination of a 1% sales tax on,
Groceries.
basically on foods, grocery
Right.
stores. It's not all foods, but that's the category. And a quick estimate for us, that would hit us about 650,000, and that's based on 2022 calendar year. I didn't do the estimate yet, or the impact for the 23 calendar year, because the fourth quarter of the 23 calendar year wasn't finished yet. So that number of 600 is probably going to be a bit low, would be my guess. And when the fourth quarter comes out, I'll do that estimate again. The mayor's been involved. All the communities are preparing the same kind of estimates and hitting Springfield hard early on of why that's a
Oh, he's
bad
up for
idea.
election, too. That's probably why he's throwing it out there.
DuPage Mayors and Managers is going to survey all 35 DuPage municipalities to see what figure that what they're losing. Naperville, for instance, is going to lose 6.4 million. Wheaton, 2.1 million. Us, about 700,000. But at the meeting I was just at the other day, I was there Saturday for a meeting with all the mayors and some state reps or federal reps, and it's amazing. This is something that impacts all municipalities. Statewide, it's about $398 billion that municipalities would lose if this goes through. And the fact of the matter is, I think all of you know it, you give it to them as a gift at that end, but you gotta pay it, they gotta pay it at this end. 'Cause unless you cut your services by
Sure.
$600,000 or $700,000.
They did the same thing during COVID, but the state reimbursed us the
Right.
amount we lost. This
Right.
is strictly a political thing.
Yeah.
He's offering it as a grandiose idea,
We're gonna
and yet
fight
it
it.
comes
Yeah.
out of our pocket.
When you go down to Springfield, we're gonna fight it before we go down to Springfield. When we go down to Springfield, that's one of the things we're fighting.
Great. Wow, that's scary.
Hopefully that doesn't happen, so that's not projected in these
Sounds like
numbers,
it's going to.
obviously.
Okay. Gotcha. Under sales tax, we budgeted 6.67 million, and we're at almost 7.2. So those numbers look really good.
I don't see much of it.
Got a
either.
healthy economic development.
I mean, I remember, what was it, 10 years ago when everything was,
Like a
the
five
recession?
something.
Yeah, it was, I think it was like 4.5 million or whatever it is.
Yeah,
You know what I
well,
mean?
don't forget, part of that too, to the extent, I mean, Walmart is one of our big sales tax generators in the city. And as their sales go up, though, our take on that is frozen based on our agreement. So if all of this was coming from Walmart, even though the number's going up, our incentive to them would be going up as well.
Gotcha.
I can't really differ.
I called Tom Klistick and I told him about this and he was overjoyed.
How much?
Joe
is-
Marquez, everybody.
He said, I was responsible for this.
How much is the, how,
I hope that got recorded on tape.
how is the new marijuana store doing,
And how are you asking?
revenue-wise?
Well, what we have on any of our retail stores, their actual sales and sales tax specific revenue by state law is confidential.
Okay,
So what are you
So you
asking,
can't
for a
break it
dollar
out?
amount?
You can't
Eric?
break it out?
All goes into the same.
I would say as a general note, when the business opened, they said it would probably take a good 12 months or so to really start, hitting their sales projections they want to hit.
I mean, are they happy with what they're seeing? Have we talked to them?
I can give you that. They're happy with where they're at for the time they've been open.
Okay.
Yeah, but if you can't break it out, I'm sorry, Mayor, but if you can't break it out, but in the aggregate, are we seeing a big increase? I mean, you'd see it
Aggregate of
somewhere.
sales tax?
Yeah.
Well, the number I think I
If
used.
you can't break it out just in total, are you seeing, like,
You know,
in the
the-
months that they've been open, you think you could almost get a good thumb, one of these, is it,
Well, we budgeted 6.6. The year before, we got about 7 million. Next year, I'm looking at about 719.
Yeah, but you have to probably look at like the last 6
About
months
six,
or something, last quarter of the year, maybe. You know what I'm saying? Like the last quarter of 2023 would be a real good period of knowing
Thank you.
if there was any increase, you probably would have seen it in the last, in
Well-
October, November, December.
Yeah. Anything above the, anything we get above the budget, just as a reminder,
Yeah.
will hit again after the audit, and that money will go to the capital project. So if I'm under here, it doesn't go to things that the council wouldn't want it to go. It goes back to the capital projects fund. So again, typically on the sales tax, it's, most of the revenues, and this is general budgeting, you try to be conservative on the revenues. You try to be accurate, but you definitely don't want to overestimate, and we lean on underestimating.
So are you as conservative as you were last year or more conservative?
Same.
Same? So you take
About the same.
level of conservatism every year?
Yeah, I look at, typically I will look at the sales of the previous year as a base. And unless things are changing, I'll use that for a base and then probably take out a little bit just in case things aren't as, aren't selling as well.
Last question on cannabis. Has the state of Illinois said how much money they actually lose to like a state like Michigan?
I wouldn't have seen that.
Okay.
I didn't come across anything like, any information. Not that it's not there, I just didn't see anything like that.
Okay, because I hear a lot of feedback from people that says that a lot of people from Illinois go to Michigan because it's, 4 times cheaper, but I don't know. So I was just curious.
No, I haven't heard anything.
Okay. Going down, anything under fines, fees, permits, or anything?
I have nothing more on that page.
Nothing? Okay. Anybody want to talk about anything? Okay. Let's go to page 3.
I
Okay.
actually had a quick question.
Sure.
Cable TV is, a lot of people are cutting the cord.
Right.
Yeah, I'd like to
You're
too.
projecting it to be consistent still? I mean, I think we're going to be okay with that?
Yeah, I think that was Mike's question also. As some people are dropping off, the people that are there are still seeing higher costs, so I thought that would be a fair number.
Okay.
I gotta get off it too, man.
Me too.
It's,
Figure out a way, will you?
yeah.
Just out of curiosity, does that also include like routers and so forth? I'm assuming it would, right?
I missed some.
Well, when you get your, if you're on a local cable company and you get your bill,
Right.
you get the total services,
Okay.
and that
It's way, it's.
fee they charge is on that total bill.
Okay.
Now, whether there's anything excluded from that, I don't believe so. Mike, I don't know if you know, but I think pretty much your whole cost, they add on to that.
Okay, so a lot of people are cutting the cord, but they still needed their routers and so forth for
Yeah.
cable. Okay.
Half of it, yeah.
For,
Now, if they don't, I will have to I'll have to double check that, Ted, if somebody is just using a router for internet, if
Okay.
that also applies. I believe it does, but I have
no,
to double check that.
I'm just
yeah.
curious, so.
That's what I'm gonna try doing.
Back to page 3. Anything on page 3?
Yeah, just one quick item, sale of wood chips, Brian. I think I mentioned to you the estimated actual on this year, 25,445. I think somebody just got an extra digit in there. The actual amount through January was 2,545.
Yeah.
Yeah, we changed that after you let me know, Mike,
Okay,
thanks.
thank you. That's all I had.
I
on
thought that was all the stuff I bought.
Going back to the previous
Stuff is
page,
nice
I know I
stuff.
forgot something. Under building permit fees, we budgeted 35,000, but we're at 93,000. I'm assuming,
20,
what were we building, or what's going on? Most of that from?
probably.
Most of it would be from Sokol. Brian probably knows better. The building permit fees, Brian, is a large part of that from the Sokol development?
Yes, yeah. For building permit fees, I typically will budget just our standard fees, and if a big building comes in, that's just extra money we get.
Just gravy to us.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Be conservative again, yep.
You'll see that increase probably with the Donovan builders with the 34, or,
Yeah, not quite to the same magnitude of
as a Sokol.
Sokol, yeah. Sokol has how many units you're talking about? It's got to be a couple hundred in there versus your,
No, Sokol's only 60 units.
that's all?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
But again, Joe, the home develop, or the housing development will also have subdivision fees that will generate some to the school, the park, and we'll get a smaller chunk of that, but that will help too. That's,
District 66 is really elated about that because they're going to get impact fees, and they're going to get, you've got 34 ranch homes each. We have
Five-
probably a six-
500,000,
500 to
600,000, yeah.
600,000, but they're not going to get any kids probably because they'll probably be all empty nesters.
Although the impact fees aren't
They
that
get it.
dramatic. I want to say it's maybe a couple $1,000s per unit in that case, so 60 grand or so.
But 66 also gets Chestnut Court. So anything he does to Chestnut Court to build condos or anything over there,
Right.
or apartments, they get that as well.
Good, maybe they can cut my taxes then.
oh boy.
Okay.
All right, move-
Anything else on page 3 under revenue? No. Went on to page 4, city council budget. And we'll immediately go down to page 5. Salaries, 42,750, that hasn't changed. Social Security, Medicare. Boards and commissions, holiday decorating contest, $500. Do we do that every year, or?
That's the,
Yes.
where we give out the awards.
Okay, gotcha. 6,600 for video and tech service consultant, that's to run the,
the meetings here,
Correct.
record meetings.
right.
Nobody rides.
12-4213, dues and subscriptions, 26,950. We have Illinois Municipal Clerks Association, 100. Illinois Municipal League membership, 1,750. DMMC events and meetings, and DMMC dues, 19,600. Metro Mayor's Caucus, 1,000. Obviously, Mayor, you've really, we started doing this, when you came on board, it's been, I think it's
I'll
been,
tell you, there's been a tremendous benefit to the city of Darien through our memberships in these organizations. And it's really raised the prestige level of the city of Darien, it really has. This year, I think there's 5 of us are gonna go down for the drive down. We know, we get a chance to have a lobbyist working on our behalf, so it's a good thing.
Cool.
It's a good thing.
anything else on that page? Let's go down to page 6. 12-4239, Public Relations, Heart of Darien Award, $1,200. Pens, miscellaneous, 500. And Holiday Bus Tours and Treats, 600. Anybody have any questions on that at all?
I asked Brian to raise the Heart of Darien Award from 800 to 1,200. They raised their prices. The jeweler raised their prices. Plus, I've been giving out more, and I want to give out a few more this year.
Cool.
So I asked for $1,200 versus 800.
Okay. 12-4263, Training and Education, 3,500.
What falls under that?
Yeah.
What's that?
What falls under?
that.
What's that?
If you remember last year, Joanne, I think, requested it. We used to have $1,000 in there,
Never spent
$100
any.
per alderman allocated if we wanted to have any training. She is the only one that took advantage of any of it, so it was
Yeah.
typically $100. Last year, budgeted $350 for the Illinois Municipal League Conference, which is downtown, so 350 times 10 of us is what was budgeted there. Again, nothing's been used this year, but maybe the 100 Joanne puts in for that. But
Okay, so About 9 years ago, we had someone from DePaul come in and give us a course on zoning and special use and things like that. And I think I was the only alderman that went to it, but almost everybody on planning and zoning went to it.
Yes.
And I've talked to Dan about, we need to do this again.
Yeah.
I looked up the woman. She still does it. I mean, is that something that I can reach out to her through LinkedIn and ask her if she'd be interested in coming back here again and then turn it over to you? Or how would,
Yeah,
how
I
would
mean,
you want
I
to do
think
that?
if you've talked to Dan, I think Dan and I and Jordan have talked about the same thing. You know, that could come out of the community development or budget or something.
Right.
Yeah,
It's
but
the exact same
that-
person who, I still have my notes from it. And
Yeah.
it's the same
Yeah.
person's still does
Yep.
it. So.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
So again, we did contemplate more of the elected officials going to the Illinois Municipal League Conference. But if somebody doesn't, there's still training money available if you wanted to use it, if you see a seminar or we see a seminar. And again, there was just a limit put on it of the 350.
Yeah, if we, I think most of the feeling was most people that would want to do it probably pay for it themselves instead of submitting it, but that's where that 3,500 came from,
Okay.
350 times 10.
I'm just trying to figure out for that because I thought it was very beneficial, and I think
Yeah, it
a
was.
lot of
a lot
planning
of
and
people
zoning's
you
turned
have,
over
yeah.
about 100% since then, and I think that'd be great for them and for us.
Money well spent.
So again, I'll charge it to Dan's budget. Remember, make that.
Moving on. Moving on. Contractual services, code, supplements pretty standard. Anything else on that page?
What page, Ted? I'm sorry.
So we're page
Six.
six.
Six. Oh, okay.
You got admin?
Just, it was 12-4263, the training and education, 3,500.
That's right. Okay.
Okay. Moving on, let's go into administration, department budget. Anything, looking at page 7, any questions on that?
Just the public relations I wanted to maybe dig into.
Which one?
The public relations,
Next page. That's on page 9.
126,814.
No problem. Give us 1 second here, Jer. Hold on.
Yeah, I don't know about this postcard mailing.
Okay. So nothing on page 7 question-wise. We'll move down to page 8. Obviously, salaries, overtime, everything's pretty standard. Operating 10-4213, dues and subscriptions of 1715. Books and publications 600. ILGFOA members 350. Notaries $160. 230 for IPLRA and GFOA 375. We budget the same amount pretty much every year.
Yeah, unless the membership goes up slightly, we try to budget about the same. I don't have last year's in front of me, but I believe it was the same, Ted.
Books and publications went up $100 to 600 from 5.
Okay. So,
Oh, the Survey Monkey is part of that now. We,
oh, is it? Okay.
an annual.
Okay. 10-4219, liability insurance, pretty standard. Let's go down to page 9. Legal notices, maintenance and equipment, okay, software. Maintenance of vehicles, 2,000, pretty standard. Postage mailings, nothing's really changed there. Printing and forms, 4,500. Now let's move into 10-4239, public relations.
Yeah.
Okay, I had a couple, maybe to hit there.
Okay.
One of the items says contingency 15,000, and in parentheses, $10,000 for a tent purchase.
Yeah.
But I think there was a opportunity to maybe purchase a tent half with the Lions Club and actually hold it and keep it, and we would be putting it up. So we decided it's better to just continue to rent.
Okay.
If we need a big tent like we had for the Fall Fest last year, instead of buying.
We're gonna split if we do rentals, the Lions will split the cost with us on the rentals.
Split the cost.
Gotcha.
Because they have the liability, then the company, they put it up, they take it
Yeah.
down, and they have the liability.
Yep.
So the contingency is not going to be 15, it's going to be 5?
Well, I would put, I don't have the number for the rentals.
Okay.
The rentals itself, I would be in the ballpark of, well, depending,
34.
probably could be 5,000.
Okay.
Depending on what festivals we rent.
I was in charge of renting the tent for
Oh.
Oktoberfest last year.
Yes.
It was approximately $2,000 for that.
Okay.
But that's based on the size of that, which
Yeah.
For if it's going to be used at Oktoberfest again now at the park, it'd probably be
$5,000.
$4,000.
Yeah.
Would be my guess.
And half to the
and-
Lions?
And half to the Lions.
Okay.
And then, and
October,
I know that I was
Darien Fest too.
Darien Fest too. I was going to talk to the.
Yeah.
I can talk to you about it too, because
Okay.
it's a rental company out of Lombard, and they did a great job, and the city might want to use them for everything and maybe get a better deal on it.
And the Lions would help on that fest also?
No, just for the Oktoberfest.
They said, Ed O'Connor told me they would go half on.
Well, that's over
Darien
my
Fest
pay
as
grade,
well.
so I don't know.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I think it sounds like,
Brian.
I mean, it sounds like 5 should handle the rentals if we're going to reduce that. And then
The question is, are you going to get a tent ever for? And it was discussed on the
Good, you don't want it.
the band nights. I mean,
oh, and the
never
summer,
had rain.
the
but
summer concert
it's
series.
going to happen one time. And
April talked to me the other day and she said, we were thinking of getting a smaller tent for the concerts. But April said, with our good luck with the weather, we probably don't need a tent for the concerts.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think if we had a bad day, it was bad all day, and we were going to get rain, we'd probably have poor attendance. Really wouldn't even need a tent, because probably wouldn't have that many people, I would think. But I didn't know, or didn't contemplate renting tents for the
well,
summer
the
concerts.
discussion that I had with the mayor and with April and would be for those events, not the same size tent as that, smaller in scope. So maybe it would be 1,000 an event to have a tent. But I don't. Again, it's all.
Yeah.
Again, I'm going to be contacting the tent company again. I
Yeah.
wanted to talk to them early this year, since I'm in charge again for the Lions for the Oktoberfest. And I could certainly discuss it with him if what kind of rate he can get if there's going to be 2 events or 5 events or whatever.
Yeah. If I'm thinking out, Tom, especially at the last concert, it was so many people, you wouldn't have fit it in a tent anyway.
Oh,
I'm
understood.
just for even that concert series is starting to really grow.
Right. I don't
So-
know. I haven't been to the one in like Burr Ridge or the other ones. Do they have any
They have
any tents to keep
No
people
tents.
protected?
not that I'm aware
No?
of.
Well,
No.
that's probably not necessary then.
Yeah, I don't think so, but.
It's raining, you're not going to go.
Right.
Yeah, and then I would, if we reduce that, then it sounds like we could reduce that at least by the 5, and I did want to keep a contingency in there of 5. Again, this is also new to us, expenses may come up, again, as a contingency.
Don't we always do 10,000 for contingency?
That's a general contingency, this is contingency specifically for the concert.
Oh, okay, gotcha, okay.
All right.
Brian, we want to mention that the Park District is having a grand reopening to the community park with pickleball instructions and tournaments on June 6th. And they said, since we're working together this year, might you want to be a part of that? So what we did is we told them we would pay for a band to play at that event. And then they would do a movie that day. They have all activities all day long. But
That came after some of this was printed, so that would be, instead of the line, that would have been to actually taking some of the contingency also.
right,
Or are you saying use that as one of our bands or in addition to?
that would be in addition to ours.
Addition to.
So Brian, are we saying we can cut the contingency in half or cut it to 10,000?
I would keep it at 10.
All right, so we're going to keep that at 10,000.
Well, reduce it from 15 to 10.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Citizen of the Year, 4K reimbursement, 8,100, pretty standard. Okay. Monthly retainer communications, 36,600.
It was the same amount as last year. Did we, how
Yeah,
much we came in at?
it'll be same price. We have, Maura does all of our work and our Direct Connect, all of our social media. She coordinates internally with staff, but she's actually the one who's preparing all that and puts it out for us. We went to a company, I don't remember now if it was 5 years ago, when the city council said we want to do a much better job in our communications on social media and things. And, that's been one area that's really improved so much, and Maura does a great job for us.
The old company used to charge $4,000 a month. They charge $2,800 a month, and every once in a while they get a little something special in there, so they're actually even more reasonable than the
Yeah,
first.
the only thing that doesn't include is the actual print newsletter we do. That's a separate.
Right, that's a separate
That's
line.
separate line and expense for that, yes. The first company, we had them do more analyzing of hits on our website and things, and then we changed. We didn't need any of that, so that helped reduce the price a little bit.
Okay. Postcard calendar mailing, 15,114.
That was at the goal-setting session. Mayor brought that up, and Joe, you can go ahead if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, the Darien Action Committee really felt strongly that we needed to send something home that seniors could actually just put right on their refrigerator. And it's a postcard. It'll have a picture. The first one that's going to go out will go out in April. It's got a picture. The front of it's going to have a picture of the St. Teresa Shrine. Every time it goes out, it has a different Darien picture. And on the back, it'll have all the dates, events, times of the events from April, May to June. And we even included July 4th. And I got some help from the new young lady, Jessica, who works part-time for us and part-time for the chamber. She's helping me design it, but eventually it goes to Maura. Maura does the final product, and then Maura sends it out. So that 15,000 is 4 mailings a year for a 3-month period.
Any issues?
It's a lot of money, but it's the only way you can get the word out anymore. I mean, if we looked at what the survey from people said, they're always thinking that we're hiding things or we're not being clear on what's going on.
Just to clarify, that's not a large majority, just so people.
No, but there were a number of people but there's not a newspaper anymore. You can't. You got to figure out another way of communicating, and this other municipalities do this. So I think it's a good idea.
Okay. Newsletter, 2 to 4 issues at 4 pages.
Yeah, we started doing that in 2002. It's been about 4 pages for us. 4 pages. And, well, you know what it is, so we're planning on continuing that.
Okay. And then 4 special events bans for 20,000, and it probably coincides with special events management for 4 events for 8,000.
The two, that's the April, right?
April.
Gets $2,000
$2,000 each time.
She's booked the bands for the summer already, and she's booked the bands for Oktoberfest already. There's 2 bands for Oktoberfest. One's a Oompa band, the other one is a regular band, and then she's got a band for each of the 3 concerts.
Any questions? Okay. Moving on, let's go down to 10-4263, $1,500 for local training. Anything in particular?
No, we just keep money in there for training that comes about. As Dan mentioned too, we like to encourage employees to take advantage of it, but we don't always have classes for them.
Same thing with 4265, the 550 between association meetings and mileage, right?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions there? Let's go down to contractual services, basically page 10. Obviously, we've skipped over telephone and utilities. Contractual services, 10-4325, 43,400, and discretionary. Website update for $4,000. What do you?
I'm sorry, Ted, I missed, what number?
10-4325.
Website.
Page 10.
Oh, 4325, I got it.
Updating the website?
Well, part of it is general maintenance and part is updating if we have. We don't have any specific updating plans for that, but we do have the monthly maintenance costs for the website.
Okay. Under computer support 136068, how's that number? Has that been pretty steady?
Well, we changed that, I think a year ago, to really fit what we needed, and we have a solid block of time now, along with call-ins to our computer consultant at no charge.
Okay.
So that's a pretty solid amount.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, we used to pay them just a fixed amount and then for every call in addition to.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of overage charges.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now it's pretty much all included in that.
Flat fee,
The
basically.
amount is actually below last year's
In your
budget.
month, it's like a monthly.
It's a monthly for the most part, yeah.
LRS electronic recycling event, 9,400, just for one of them.
For one, yes.
Do we know how they, like, how that goes over? I mean, I love it, I promote it, but do we know, like, are people taking advantage of it?
So,
Well, we get reports on,
Like how much they pick up?
we get monthly reports on our garbage recycling, and we get information back on that electronic recycling event. I could check and send it out. We get it once a year. I think it's in one of the monthly
I'm just curious,
reports.
I would hope people take advantage of it, because, anywhere to take a TV now, you gotta pay per TV, so to just set it on your, just have to call and register and
Oh,
let
yeah.
them know, I mean, I promote it, I tell people
Yeah.
to take advantage of it, but I'm just curious, do
Yep.
people take advantage of it?
Yeah, I would have to look back, Jerry, and find out the actual numbers, but we do get the information.
Be curious, just
Okay.
to see it, yeah.
I mean, it's a great event. It really is.
Oh,
I
yeah.
remember, Lisa,
a lot of
wasn't it
communities have them.
5 or 6 years ago when we had it out here in City Hall on that Saturday?
Yeah, drive-through.
What, did we collect the stuff that day?
Yes.
And we got food. We had people donate food as they brought their old
Oh, yeah.
TVs.
And didn't we have to order a second bin?
Did.
Oh,
We
yeah.
had three. We had three.
That was unbelievable that day. It really was.
You know, so. Strategic planning consultant for 30,000.
Yeah,
I thought we
that
just approved
had
like
a-
19,000.
Yeah, we had a placeholder in there until we got the bids, and the bids came
Oh,
after
okay.
the number.
Just
The
hasn't-
actual bid price was 18,100.
18,1, okay.
18,1, and we should, as I think the mayor mentioned when that was approved, we should have a small contingency in there if we end up getting a facility, or if we have meetings, and we have a luncheon, or some contingency. And we shouldn't go over on any of the services, but if we want to ask for additional services, they spelled that out above and beyond. I don't know what that could be. We've never done that. I think $5,000 should cover it, if tops. So we would end up at,
18 plus the 5?
yes.
All right. Everybody good with that? Okay. 10-4330 contingency. This is the same number we've had for years and years, 10,000.
Yeah.
Janitorial services, pretty standard. We just had the contract, from what I remember. Equipment, cable room maintenance for 5,000.
I know I'm still getting residents complaining about the quality, listening to the city council meetings and getting cutting out and stuff at times.
I
I don't
haven't,
know.
me personally, Eric, I haven't had any calls for a long time.
Yeah, I get them all the time. My wife gets calls, she's watching and stuff, and she has them go onto YouTube and watch it on YouTube rather than Channel 6.
Well, if you could send those to us so we are aware of it and we can make sure our consultants take a look at it. We have that white box up there you'll see, that's going to be the new, actually microphones pretty soon. There's some final setup going on. The microphones in front of you, those will be gone.
Okay.
And our consultants finishing that up.
So
It should improve things.
No, I'm sorry?
Yeah. Sometimes that helps and sometimes that hurts.
All right.
Yeah, if anybody has any, if residents contact you with that, we really want to know, so
Okay.
we could address it. We've had a couple of problems, and they end up being something between our computer maybe and going to YouTube, but not not necessarily the sound. We've had any. No.
Okay.
All right.
Color printer, nothing's there. Okay. Any other questions on this section?
Nope.
Okay. Brian, 3-year projection? Is that what else?
Yeah,
are we
really, because we did it backwards this year, because we had more elected officials at the last meeting. The cover page, number 1, is, to me, that's usually the most important page. It gets you the 10,000-foot view of where the general fund, where we're looking at over a 3-year period. And Mike pointed out a couple things in terms of Our transfers to the capital projects fund are back down again, projected over the next few years. We've been fortunate again. Every year we project a certain number. We're able to transfer more there. But typically, we'll just take our revenues and we'll take the expenses, and whatever surplus is over about $4 million, which is the reserve I aim for, will get transferred to the capital projects fund. So I would say it's solid, Mike, but, we're able to keep the reserves except for the transfer out shrinks.
Capital, yeah.
To capital.
And pending what the government does, what the state does, if anything, with the sales tax.
Yeah, that would hurt.
That hurt a lot.
So basically, the only thing that we're really dwelling on is what we're gonna do with the EV, right, so far?
Well, what I understood is we're going to keep.
Placehold it.
We're going to keep a placeholder of 1/3.
Okay.
And we'll come back to the council once we get more info or new grants come, or, Dan can get something more. Like he said, he still needed more information to council. It'll be another lengthy discussion, I would imagine, once we get more info.
Gotcha. Are we missing anything else from the budget?
No, just as we've gone along, we've made some changes. I think I mentioned before, some of this information is old, it's not material, but we have maybe a couple months more of a revenue estimate. So I'll adjust those numbers slightly, but nothing too large other than what the council has approved.
The one thing that I just want to reflect on, the sales tax numbers being in 7 million being up, I think that's very strong for, not only for the city of Darien, but just in general. A lot of these towns are not getting the sales tax like they used to,
Well, I've always said that we're fortunate because of our sales tax blend. Even when the economy or, things would hit, we're not car dealerships. We're not things that get hurt.
Right.
We're pretty good at our staples for things, and so it's been very, very solid, and it is growing. There's a number of new businesses and
It's really amazing
revenue.
when you look at our business community, where we've lost a business, we've got another business that goes in there. It's amazing to see where we are now versus where we were when I got elected in 2019. There's been a lot of growth in that area.
Mhm.
And, people question all the time, what's our economic development team doing? That plus Dan Gombeck and Jordan, it says a lot about what they do to bring businesses into the city of Darien. Like, for instance, Harmony Sushi is gone. Helmstead, which was going to go in there, he pulled out. I had a call from Joey Capri the other day, last week. Joey Capri possibly wants to put a Capri restaurant
That'd be nice.
at Harmony Sushi. He
that'd be
met with
nice.
John Manos. We told him he's got to come in and talk to us, because he's looking for money for signage, things like that. He's looking
Probably
for money
myself
like
when I was looking at the
there's no
calendar.
guarantee, he hasn't signed any lease or anything like that, but it would be, if he goes in there, I mean, that's a big plus
That'd
for
be
us in
nice,
terms
yeah.
of a restaurant.
Brian, I forgot to ask the chief, where are we with the police texts, the alerts, that
They
system?
finished up a couple
I've had a few neighbors ask, because,
Yeah, we're gearing up now. There was a couple outstanding issues that just got resolved, I think, today.
oh, good.
So the chief talked to Mary and our staff about starting to put out the advertisement on direct mail. And I believe that should be this week on Thursday. So we're getting close now.
Oh, great. Oh, perfect timing.
It's like 2 weeks.
I think Mary Sullivan mentioned last week, the process now is we'll go through, make the changes, prepare the final budget, which has some more information in there, just more details, nothing really more about the numbers. And that budget, we have to have a public hearing on the budget, which is the first meeting in April. And then that same night, we have an ordinance that would authorize approval of the budget.
Correct.
Sounds good.
Anything else, guys?
No. Nice job, Ted.
I just filled in, guys. And again, Mary, wish you were here. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.